Well, good afternoon. And thank you for waiting so patiently. When you look at my profile, I am the last of 10 children. And these things follow you. So I'm the last here. My topic this afternoon is about investing in children. I have great pleasure and I feel honored to share with you stories and people who have invested in my life and inspired me to do the same. Thinking about stories, we all sometimes hear the phrase, you have to dream big dreams. And big dreams are wonderful. Only dreamers can change the world. And for me, the dreamer that stands above all dreamers is Joseph. So when I read the story of Joseph, the one with the Technicolor dream coat, yes. When I read the story of Joseph, I wanted to interview him. So this poem is about my interview with Joseph. Dreaming Joseph, tell me what you saw. I saw in a field of sheaves we bore, 12 sheaves all in all. I looked again and saw in my dream 11 sheaves on the ground. For homage they paid to one sheaf alone, and that belonged to me. Dreaming Joseph, what else did you see? I saw in my dream the sun, the moon, and 11 stars shining bright. I looked again, amazed to see they bowed and called me Lord. Dreaming Joseph, tell me what is true. Dreams are dreams when you sleep, but do they all come true? Your dream is life. Your dream is hope. To help you understand, the one above calls on you some special job to do. Your dreams may not unfold the way you thought they would. The woes that greet you on the way prepare you for your role, appointed in love by Him who will make your dreams come true. He's planned it all perfectly and He's marked the dates for you. So when you find your journey long, which makes you sad and blue, recall your dreams and there do hope that someday they will come true. The journey between your dream and you may be a long and winding road. And when you think your dream has died, believe in the giver of dreams who lives above. He will make it all come true. So that is my poem about my interview with Joseph. Well, I was born in a Ghanaian village where children learn the trade of their parents. So my parents were farmers. I was destined to be a farmer for the rest of my life. Then something wonderful happened. According to Lord Tennyson's poem, the old order changes, yielding place to new. And God fulfills Himself in many ways, lest one good custom should corrupt the world. And the year I was born, the old order was changing. This man came on the stage of the world. Osajifo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, Ghana's first prime minister and first president. He was fighting from independence from colonial rule. And the first thing on his mind was to educate Ghanaian children. And the only way he could educate us was if he made education compulsory. Because our parents were not going to just let us go to school when there was work to be done on the farms. And so compulsory free education came about, and that is why I went to school. This is another quote from Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, and this quote really delights my heart. What does the educated man do? And for me, I like the last sentence where he says, the educated man needs to have power to appreciate the needs of the people around him and be of service to them. And so he also inspired me not only to get education, but also to do something with my education. So Dr. Kwame Nkrumah stands in the annals of my life as the man who set my foot on the first step of this journey. I was humbled to learn that in 1949, the year I was born, was the same year he was planning to educate Ghanaian children. How amazing is that? Well, so near and yet so far. Education was free, but our parents had to buy uniforms and books. At that time, my elder sister and I were the only ones young enough to go to school. But before my final year, it was 1965, where I would have been in my final year in school, my mother couldn't afford to buy my school uniform, all the books I needed. Life was tough. So she said to me, I've tried the best I could. You have to help me in the market. So, no one will know the pain in the heart of a child when you see all your colleagues walk into school and you are in the market selling. And I carried that big platter on my head, selling soap and towels and talc in the neighborhood. At that time, we had moved from Ketekrachi to Hohoe. And Hohoe was a big, vibrant town. The people of Hohoe speak Ewe. And I didn't speak Ewe at the time. I didn't understand the language. So a man called me to buy soap. And when I went to him, I said to him, please, sir, do you speak English? Because I don't understand Ewe. He said, of course I speak English. Have you finished your elementary school education already? And I said, no, sir. So why are you not in school? And I said, oh, please, sir, it's a long story. My mother has tried the best she could, but she can't afford, financially things are really tough. She can't afford to buy my uniforms. Then he paused and said, who is your mother? So I told him my mother's name. And he said, where in the market is she? So I told him where he could find my mother in the market. I thought he wanted to buy yams because my mother sold yams. Well, he paid for what he bought and I just carried on selling. That same week, my mother came from the market and she said, you have to go back to school. Oh, okay. We have to find a school for you. And fortunately for me, the school she found, the school that had vacancies for me, was the RC Girls' School in Hohoe. And I was so fortunate also to have Mrs. Teresa Senu, who was not only the headmistress of the school, but my class teacher. And Mrs. Senu was passionate about poetry. We learned all kinds of poems, from Lord Tennyson's The Old Order Changeth to Helen Steiner Rice's Heart Gifts, all kinds of poems. But there was just one poem, a narrative poem, which had 19 verses. And she wanted us to learn all 19 verses. And that poem was by Robert Southey, an old English poet who wrote about Bishop Hatto. The narrative of the poem was that this rich bishop appointed a day to quiet the poor without delay. The poor folk flocked from far and near. The great barn was full as it could hold of women and children and young and old. Then when he saw it could hold no more, Bishop Hatto, he made fast the door. And whilst for mercy on Christ they called, he set fire to the barn and burnt them all. To my young heart, how cruel can this bishop be? He killed all the people who only wanted a bit of grain from him. But getting to the end of the narrative, a bishop who ran away and hid himself in his tower in an island, not only did he have rats eating all his corn, the rats marched to him. And the part of the poem that delighted me, my young heart, was, and all at once to the bishop they go. They gnawed the flesh from every limb, and now they pick the bishop's bones. And I said, yes. For they were sent to do judgment on him. And so in my young heart, I realized that nobody really gets away with it, you know. Nobody gets away. That even bishops don't get away with murder. And so that poem put the love of poetry, narrative poetry. So I started writing poems when I was in school. And I wrote it as a hobby. I wrote poems for my friends for their birthdays, anniversaries. I enjoyed writing poetry and short stories. And then after school, I gained entrance into nursing. And I enjoyed nursing. It was fantastic, learning about the human body, learning about anatomy, physiology, and nursing, and all the principles. That was amazing. In my final year in nursing, my mother became ill. And she was admitted to my hospital. And as we do in every corporation or company, I hope, all my colleagues would go and visit her, buy her fruit. The doctors, everybody would go, is that Hannah's mom? Or Hannah, how is Hannah's mom doing? And my mother felt so proud and fulfilled. After her discharge from the hospital, she said to me, Hannah, what's the name of that man you asked to come and beg me to send you back to school? That question took me aback. I said, what man? She said, the man came to me in the market and he gave me a strict warning. He said, Madam, if you don't send that girl back to school, you'll regret it in the future because I can see a bright future for her. That man, whose name I don't know, you couldn't ask a grown-up what is his name. It's not part of our culture. I never knew this man's name, and yet he invested in my life because he took the trouble. He took his time to go and speak to my mother. And because he did that, I was able to go back to school. And now, the International Society of Poetry have bestowed on me the title Distinguished Poet. This would not have been possible had not somebody invested in my life. And so that is why I write life-affirming stories. I believe that by writing life-affirming stories and encouraging children to accept themselves, learn to love themselves, they also will grow up and also learn to invest. My story, Panda Song, addresses the antagonist within. Every story has a hero and a villain, a protagonist and an antagonist. But what if the antagonist in the story of your life is you? Or how you feel about yourself? Or how somebody made you feel about yourself? As we heard from Jackie, she was walking around and nobody knew the hurt she felt. And so in my story, Panda Song, I brought all the animals in the world into one rainforest. a bit like today, our world today is made up of all nationalities. And so we have Macinda, who, even though he's a little monkey, is not afraid to argue with a camel. And the animal started to argue whether the creator has paint pots and paint brushes in his workshop, because he painted everything different. The zebra said, yes, I think he has. Look at my stripes. So the buffalo also agrees. But look at Panda. See where Panda is. The parrot said, of course, look at my beautiful feathers. The creator painted them. And the tiger steps up to say, my stripes are more beautiful than yours. Do you hear that on the school playground or in adult life? When people compare themselves with themselves. Saul of Tarsus, who became Paul the Apostle, he wrote, those who compare themselves with themselves are not wise. But in my rainforest, the animals continue to compare themselves. Then the peacock also unfurls his feathers and says, the creator had more time for me, Look, he's painted every single feather so beautifully. At which time, Panda began to sob. And I asked Panda, why are you crying? She said, I don't like myself. I don't think I'm beautiful. Look at me. I'm neither white nor black. I wish I was black all over. Or white all over. The golden eagle said, if you were black all over, you'd be a black bear. You've got a black bear already. And if you're white all over, you'll be a polar bear. We've got a polar bear already. So the creator must have purposely made you the way you are. You are beautiful, you are unique, you are special. And so they encouraged Panda to look at her reflection in a lake, and when she did, of course, she's different, but she's beautiful. And so when Panda looked at herself in the lake, she came up, and she remembered a song her mother used to sing. Shall we listen to the song? Yes. Okay.
I'm special, I'm so unique, fearfully, wonderfully, beautifully me. I want the whole world to see every color of the rainbow is part of me. We all come in different shapes and sizes, big or small, we're all full of surprises. Look at the tiger stripes, beautiful are panda's eyes. We're all perfect in God's eyes, and we're all special. We're so unique, fearfully, wonderfully, beautifully. I love me. I love me. I love me.
Thank you.